Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this with the reps at Diesel Bookstore. We are happy to see everybody today. Every Wednesday, we get together here at 11-ish. Ergo, 11s, and we grab our beverages and our snacks, and we meet with our publishing professionals, our publishers, sales representatives, our booksellers, authors, and we discuss all of the new, upcoming, and recently released titles that they want you to know about, and so that you can add them to your to be read pile, which I do every single week over here. It's been an absolutely amazing spring, I think. So much to choose from every week because Tuesday's new release day, and every Tuesday there's just, oh no, that book I have to read as well. So it's been an amazing spring, and we're rolling right into an amazing summer, actually, with all of these fantastic books. And we have some fantastic professionals to tell you all about them today. And I'm going to introduce those wonderful people, and we're going to get rolling because we've got to do it. But first, I want to tell you about this week at the store at Diesel. We have an event on Tuesday coming up. So that's next Tuesday, May 19th. And we have Melissa Clark at the store, and Melissa will be discussing and signing Force of Nature. So that is going to be at the store at Diesel on Tuesday, May 19th at 6:30 p.m. We do have many other events coming up, very exciting events, actually, which coming up, and I'm going to start talking about it a lot at the store. We have rep summer pick nights. I mean, you're getting some early summer picks here, but coming up on June 4th, I believe it's June 4th, which is a Thursday at 6:30 p.m. where you're going to see some of these guys presenting their picks at Diesel, and I'll be talking much more about that as we go, but you don't want to miss that. And all of our other events are available on our website at dieselbookstore.com, so you can check that out there. And also, everything we talk about today, all of the books we discussed today are going to be posted in the little chat area right below your screen, and we'll have links to all of the books we talk about today so you can order them later. But now we want to hear about them first. So who is here today to talk about books? We have Patricia Nelson with us from Princeton University Press. We've got Will Gawronski from Columbia University Press Consortium. Let's couple university presses here in the house. And then rounding it out, Julia Callahan from Hachette. So welcome, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And why don't we just get started with it right away? Patricia, why don't you lead us off?
Okay. Well, I have a book I'm really kind of delighted to finally have in my hands. It just looks great. It's called Like a Cat Loves a Bird. It's a witty, brilliant, unusually structured biography of Muriel Spark. I really feel like Spark is having a bit of a moment. There was a major biography last year, but this one has a sort of a sharp tone to it. It's really, really quite wonderful, by James Bailey. Um, he presents her as a genius, a survivor, a bad mother, a fickle friend, a closeted lesbian, a tyrant, a loner, an eccentric, a recluse, a gossip, and an arch manipulator. As he begins his book, he looks at a sitting for her at a time when she was already very well known. She's sitting for a portrait, and every time she appears before the artist, she's completely different. First, she's in sort of a charcoal suit, and she's sort of austere and has red hair, and then the next time she's in a red fox fur coat. And when he finally finishes the portrait, she sort of disavows it because she's just difficult. There were kind of associations with her that I hadn't made before, as we think of her fiction with its little twist of horror. And not surprisingly, she adopted Patricia Highsmith's cat among her many cats, and you can just imagine that she would be associated with Patricia Highsmith. In fact, we do get to know the cats' names, including Bluebell, Spider, Pasquetta, Serafina, Miss Fisher, Pinot Grigio, Little Gray. And the book is full of these wonderful little moments. This argues that Muriel Spark was one of literature's great shapeshifters. She had this mercurial, witty, brilliant, cruel style. It's interesting how she looked at sort of uh, small groups, a private school, a convent, and kind of emotional disturbances within that group, paranoias, upset relationships. The book is full of insight. She ended up in Tuscany and being having that kind of life. She just happened to have available to her extraordinary country house of many rooms and a devoted friend, Penelope Jardine, who was willing to sacrifice her life to support Muriel's. And I think I think the book is just completely engaging. It's written in 13 short, very elegant chapters. It gives us that childhood in Edinburgh, a time in South Africa, London, New York, and Rome, and then this life with stray cats in rural Tuscany. It brings alive to you all of her work. You want to read again, plunge into lots of Muriel Spark novels, and it's really been fun to find Spark fans along the way as I've been taking this book around.
I don't know her very well, but this sounds like the kind of book that will give you an absolute window into her. And I also think, I have to say, I think Patricia Highsmith's Cat is a great name for a book or a band or one of those things.
A play. I feel like a play. It should be like
yeah, or a play. Absolutely. It's a great title for something. But I'm not that familiar with her, but I have been. I think you're absolutely right, Patricia, when you say that there's some renewed interest in her, because I have been hearing about her.
Crime of Miss Jean Brodie is sort of probably the most familiar, a school full of girls over cloistered, and her famous line, give me a girl at an impressionable age and she is mine for life. And this is a quality that she brings to her fiction that it's just a little shot. And all of a sudden I'm thinking of The Lottery, for example, other writers that have this kind of unexpected, cruel, and horror center in what seemed like an approachable domestic story.
Wow, what a great way of putting it. And I absolutely adore that cover. That is just such a
Yes,
great...
it's been fun to have a book that has it all together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It says everything right there.
Put a cat on it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that look on her face, it says so much. Thank you, Patricia. All right, Will, let's go over to you for your first book.
Okay. I love Muriel Spark, so I think that's so exciting that there's this book coming. Yeah, she's just wonderful. Speaking of portraits, I was in Edinburgh. This is a couple of years ago, and I went to the National Portrait Gallery there. And if I'm not wrong, I think they've got at least 2 paintings of her there, because she looms large.
Yeah.
In their sort of consciousness there. So I was thinking of that when you were talking about the paintings, because if I remember right, they're really different images of her, at different points in her life. But they're just completely different takes on who she was. So anyway, very exciting about that book. Okay, so my first book, I'm going to be at the Rep Nights thing in a few weeks. And so I have a copy that arrived. And this is one of the books I'm going to be talking about then, but I'm excited to talk about it now, is From the Skyscraper to the Wildflower. It's from Columbia University Press. And just came out. It's a really beautiful book about New York in 1905. So there was a man named C.G. Hine, who was an amateur photographer living in New York around that time. He worked in what's now Wall Street area, Lower Manhattan. And he was, loved taking photos of the city. And as a project, he decided to go all the way up Broadway and take photos the whole way to sort of document what it looked like in 1905. So that's what this book is. And I have a copy here because it just arrived. I can hold up some of the images, not that you'll be able to see them that well on my little camera, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that are in this. They're just incredible images. Here's one of my favorites, which is like a little sign that's attached to a building that's an ad, and it says, don't be woozy, chew the gum that's round. It's like an ad for some particular kind of gum. So that's in Lower Manhattan. Here is, he has some pictures of people too, which I just love. Here's some guys like posing down a street, also 1905. Here's a man reading a book, and the caption says, bookworm in Union Square, sitting on a bench reading a book, which I just love with his little hat on. One of the things that surprised me about this book was, I don't know why I just never thought of this, but the amount of electric lights that were in New York in 1905, which I wouldn't have thought, but there's images in here of billboards and, lights around businesses and things like that in ways that I wouldn't have expected. Here's one this is 42nd Street. This is Times Square area, if you can see. So this is 1905. And there's what I think is like a sort of digital clock up there, if that's what it says. It says 7:10, so I think that's the time. And the sign around it says Wilson's time for a highball. So it was a bar right there, all lit up. They're incredible images. And for people who love New York and who love New York history, I just think this is a wonderful gift book to have. Not sort of surprisingly, as he goes up Broadway, it becomes, much more residential. Here's 75th Street in Broadway. That's the Ansonia apartment hotel, which is still there. It's one of those beautiful Upper West Side buildings. So just surrounded by pretty much nothing at that point. And then way up high, there are actually images of beautiful flowers. And when he gets to Fort Tryon, which is where the Cloisters is now, it's just, there's a lot of these kind of bucolic pictures of what the island looked like there then as well. I love this kind of stuff that's just a moment of capturing what the city or any place looked like at a particular time and just kind of recreating it for us is just so exciting. I love this book. So.
What fun.
Yeah,
In
right?
addition to, yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, I thought at first it's very specific.
Right.
But it isn't in a lot of ways. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that New York City is, it has the universal, but it is. It's sort of like reaches across time and space, I think. But really, really fun. Really great looking book as well. So thank you, Will, and look forward to hearing more about that again.
Yeah.
In person. All right, Julia.
All right. Well, my first one, I'm doing a few that are coming out a little bit later because of my travel schedule for selling our fall season. I will not be here for a little bit. But so my first one comes out June 2nd. So that's in a couple of weeks. And it's called Valley of the Moms by Hannah Selinger. And Hannah Selinger wrote a memoir for us called Cellar Rat, about working in restaurants that I absolutely loved. But this is her debut novel. And this one, it's May. I'm thinking about summer reading. This is a juicy, juicy summer novel. If you watched and liked The Hunting Wives on Netflix, which this is less camp than The Hunting Wives, which is full camp goodness, but it has a similar narrative where a woman ends up dead, and as you are going, that it's like happens. You understand that in like the first page that she ends up dead, and then the question is, as you sort of go back and you follow her footsteps to see what happened, did these PTA moms kill this woman because she disagreed with how they were running the PTA? And I personally have never been on a PTA. However, everyone I talk to about this goes, yeah, that seems possible. So it is just, it's juicy, it's fun. It is like, I mean, there is obviously a woman does end up dead. So there is like, um, heartbreak to it, but in a way that's like it's a fun murder mystery. You are with the woman the whole time, so you sort of get to know this person, and you get to know this town. It's sort of an upper crusty New England town that they're in, and it's just, I had such a good time reading it. I like couldn't I wanted to know what happened. And it delivered also. What a banger of a cover on this one. So not that we judge books by that, but it is a pretty good one. So yeah, this is Valley of the Moms by Hannah Selinger, and I think you'll have a great time with it.
We're not supposed to judge by the cover, but the cover is what gets you in there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it pulls you over unless you know exactly what you're looking for and you go straight to it. If you're browsing, that's what it does. So, and then you judge later.
Exactly.
But first it gets you in there. And this is a great and representative cover, I think, for a really, really fun book. And I also enjoyed Cellar Rat, having, had a similar experience in my life. And I think anybody who spent a lot of time in restaurants can write a great murder mystery with lots of juicy gossip. And that's exactly what this one does. It totally delivers. It's great, great fun. And I think you're going to be talking about this one at Rep Night, aren't you?
I am,
Julia?
yes.
So
That's
hear about
true.
it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect summer read. Yeah, couldn't be better. Thank you, Julia. All right, back to you, Patricia.
Okay. Well, I have another wonderful book I've been waiting for called Arachnomania by the great folklorist Maria Tatar. It's on spiders and the cultural work they do for us. It's a kind of a look at the symbolic cultural weight that Spidey has on many, many levels. It just touches on all kinds of representations of spider, both horror and, of course, patience spinning a goddess. So it goes from Aragog and Spider-Man to Charlotte. It shows us an architect of webs. There's lots of mythology. It has a rich set of chapters beginning with creepy, fearless, and devious, introducing the weirdness of the spider. And I believe she takes off a bit from David Lynch in her preface. She's very engaged in cinema. She shows us Fritz Lang's The Spider, William Neal's The Spider Woman, Black Widow, A Kiss of the Spider Woman, and lots of Cold War, nuclear anxiety, giant spider movies that might come your way. She's very interesting on literary arachnids. Her deep dive into Tolkien's giant spider Shelob sort of revealed to me a surprising depth of misogyny that I had not actually absorbed in reading Tolkien, and how that was replicated in Stephen King's It and J.K. Rowling's Aragog. She looks at benevolent spiders in Emily Dickinson and Whitman, and she looks at Agatha Christie's Miss Marple as sort of a spidery sleuth. I really thought it was great that she touched on Eva Hesse and Louise Bourgeois in art, and of course the great representations by Odilon Redon that have always stayed in my mind of the spider. And then I think finally really brings us to the mythological Spider Woman, to Navajo string games that were part of their winter activities, to African spider god, and she concludes with really just a hymn to E.B. White's Charlotte and to Charles Darwin's growing understanding of spider as a more than a horror. I find it curious why this became her subject as a sort of grande dame of mythology. We know her for uh, Hard Facts of the Grimm's Fairy Tales, her books on Bluebeard, her annotated Grimm's Fairy Tales. She's done some great work for Norton. And so it's wonderful to have her on our list and have her do what I feel is just a passionately personal book, going in all directions as if she had just been collecting
Yeah.
information on Spider for a long time and pulled it all together. So it's not a book for the natural history section. This is definitely a kind of a folklore uh, look at cultural Spider.
I love her so much. I've been reading her for so long because I have this ongoing fascination with folklore and fairy tales and what's behind all of them. And she's just so brilliant at talking about it, and you just fall right in. And I also thought about why spider, but then you think about it, and as soon as you say spider to yourself, you think about what flows in, and it's a lot. Like, why not spider, really? And I opened this book just at random, and I fell into the whole piece about Tolkien, and I couldn't put it down. She's brilliant. She's just so brilliant and evocative, and there's these great illustrations. I am such a huge fan, and I think it's such a great book. And she's scholarly, but she's very accessible, and you read 5 pages and you've already learned 3 things you didn't know before. It's amazing. I love that kind of book. So
And again, just kind of getting at the Little House of Horrors that, she really understands fairy tale. I mean, did any of us really recover
yes.
from reading The Little Match Girl? I was blighted for life. And all the other incidents where girls wear red shoes and are seriously punished. It's
Or
it's
hoods.
incredible what's in these stories. And she's found a particular web
Yeah,
to pursue, and she does a brilliant job.
it's a great book. Thank you, Patricia. All right, well, back to you.
Spiders, yay. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I love her books too. I had one of her books once a few years ago and that I sold, and she's great. So my next book is from University of California Press. Here's a very Los Angeles-y kind of book that I'll be talking about in a couple of weeks too. It's Power Surge. Conglomerate, Hollywood, and the Studio System's Last Hurrah. This is a new book by Thomas Szatz, who a lot of people remember even now from his big book, Genius in the System of the System, his book about the studio system in Hollywood that was published 30 years ago and is still in print and still sells as a backlist book. This is in some ways kind of a sequel to that, or like moving much forward in time. This covers the period from about 1989 to about 2004, 2005. And he's looking at this kind of last moment as the studio systems were being kind of brought under the umbrella of these different conglomerates, media conglomerates, which you would think is a bad thing. And in some ways he agrees, but it's also like this kind of this moment when there was all of a sudden what he calls the indiefication of Hollywood, where you saw all of these indie filmmakers just kind of come out of the woodwork. And it was also a moment where people like Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese were kind of at their peak in the late 80s, early 90s, when they were, really doing a lot of big stuff. But he looks at, the rise of the Coen brothers, Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh, all of these people and what they brought to the world at that moment. So this is a book I would say, like, and the images are great. Like, here's a picture of Frances McDormand being directed in Fargo, and there's pictures I don't think I have it tagged, and I should have, because it's a really good picture of behind the scenes at Titanic, where you can see Kate Winslet with her life vest on, but she's just sitting around like, doing nothing. It's a fun book that I think will appeal to film people, of course, anybody who's interested in that, but also people who are interested in the film industry and the major figures there. So there's all of the David Geffens, and the Rupert Murdoch is in here, and Steven Spielberg, and the creation of DreamWorks, and all of these other types of companies that came out at this period. It's totally engrossing. It's a nice big fat history. I think it will just be a perfect book for a lot of people this season.
It's definitely a perfect book for us here in the middle of Los Angeles. at Diesel, and this is going to be a great. I love these kinds of books. They're just I have endless fascination, and actually enhances the films when you go back and you look at them and you kind of know some of that stuff and can see the workings of it. But I mean, what a fun read,
Mhm.
you know. So I think that's going to be a good one. And again, June 4th, we will have copies, and you'll be talking about it again. Thanks, Will. Julia.
All right. Well, my next one is a debut short story collection, which is, doesn't those don't always get the spotlight. But this one has a little bit of a spotlight on it because this is called The Good Eye, and it's by Jess Gibson. And Jess Gibson is Margaret Atwood's daughter. And so she's got quite a lineage to live up to. But I'm pleased to say that she does. And I'm a pretty harsh critic of short stories because they're, I think, one of the most, it's definitely the hardest writing a writer will ever do if they do it well. But I also think that a great short story will really knock your socks off. And so this one I absolutely loved. This has gotten a starred review in Publishers Weekly and has gotten, we've heard just like a lot of praise for it. I was prepped with a good quote and then I lost it. So give me a second to get it. But I will say in the meantime, it is just an absolute stunner of a book. These short stories will really like grip you. They will sort of make you look at things a different way. So I found my quote. Electric Literature called this or said that one of the pleasures of Gibson's work is that its suggestion that observation fundamentally changes the nature of that which is observed. Likewise, that which is observed fundamentally changes the observer. So that's sort of the theme of a lot of these stories, and they are absolutely will knock your socks off. And I love a good short story collection because I don't know, perhaps you're like me and you've got 800 books open to a certain page that you're trying to get through all at once. And what I love about a short story collection is you can read the whole story and then put it down and you've read the whole story. And then you can read the next one when you get a chance to pick it up again. So this book, I think we're going to see more from Jess Gibson. She's got some long form, I know, work in the pike, but this book is a great start to her professional writing career, and I am so happy to bring it to you. It's a really great collection of stories.
Um, I, so yeah, a lot to live up to. It's a good thing her last name is Gibson and not Atwood. But we are seeing more amazing short story collections lately. This is one of the greatest kind of trends that I'm seeing happening lately. And that is such a great quote from Electric Literature.
I know, right?
I love it. Physics concepts as I just applied to short stories. I love that. This would lead me to the book right away. But we are seeing a lot of really high quality short story collections lately, and this is one of them. I got really excited when I saw this galley as well, Julia. I want to just mention quickly. Yes, here it is. This is another short story collection. I'm sorry, Joey, I didn't tell you. It's called Patient Female by Julie Schumacher. This is one of the best short story collections I've read in a really, really, really long time. It's comes from Milkweed, which is an amazing little publisher from Minnesota, and all of the protagonists in these stories are women at various stages of life. It's funny, it's smart, it's just it hits all the notes, and she's such an absolutely fine writer. I was blown away by it. It was fantastic. It's a fantastic. Anyway, sorry, didn't want to step on anybody's, but you were talking about short stories, and I was like, this is one of the best short story collections I've read for a long time. So just wanted to throw that in there. And Joey, you can post that link. And sorry. But I think
actually it's funny because Andrea Tetrick and I talked about these two books on Monday at Warwick's tea time. So yeah, we were back to back and we both talked about these short story
Oh,
clubs.
really? So she talks, because
Yeah.
milkweed's her. But I just was stunned by what an amazing deft touch she has, and also how really funny it is. The title story, Patient Female, is about a woman who is a professional gynecology patient. Like students come in and, give her pelvic exams and everything. She gets paid for that. And, she's at work one day and like this high school crush shows up and yes, hilarity ensues. Anyway, just like basic situations that you encounter, but she's just got such a great take on it. I loved it. Anyway, thank you, Julia, and thanks for like my surprise. I'm glad Andrea was talking about it on Monday. That's great. All righty, let's start off the last round with you, Patricia.
Okay. Well, I have a book I've really enjoyed this season. It's called What's So Great About the Great Books? Why You Should Read Classic Literature Even Though It Might Destroy You by Naomi Panakia. And this book has a sort of an autodidact reading the great books on her own. She introduces what I think is such a necessary term, the lay reader. You might think of this as aspirational reading that becomes a deeply personal journey. We bring all that to our assumptions, but Kanakia is, of course, an incredibly deep reader, and apparently reads faster. It's like a superhero skill that she has, 1,000 pages a day, and she has a brilliant Substack called A Woman of Letters. So she took on around 2010 the idea of reading the great books, and she took an old-fashioned canonical list to heart. That would be Clifton Fadiman's Great Books list. On a recent interview that I listened to with Common Reader, she says that she was at a sci-fi reader con, and Michael Dirda was there. And through that encounter and through the fact that he liked that list, she started on this massive enterprise for the last decade and a half, and took on this, the classical books that you would expect, Moby Dick, Whitman, but also Asian classics, philosophy. She brings to it an unexpected eye, and she's full of interesting questions about why you should read the great books, what they mean, are they too difficult to read on your own? I love that the whole idea that you need to be guided, she blows away. She's very interesting about what makes a book great. What do we mean by that? But also whether they're worthwhile, whether they're exclusive, whether they're psychologically damaging for marginalized people, whether they were written by reprehensible people. All of this is intriguing from her point of view. Her literary history. She's written several young adult novels, and she was just signed for, as I learned on her blog, her Substack, for a debut short story collection from Random House. So she's a very interesting writer. She's a trans writer, and some of that journey is part of this discussion. It's an interesting thread that she brings in. If you look at her publishing history, you can see the transition with her Harper titles to Naomi. I find her incredibly brilliant and interesting. She intriguingly follows this idea that a community of commentators and readers and bloggers and maybe Instagram and TikTok has sort of picked up steam since she began this in 2010, that the idea of reading the heavyweights on your own is more and more exciting. More and more people are finding a book. I myself have, there's a really interesting reader that I see on Instagram reading Count of Monte Cristo. And suddenly I realized that that's a phenomenon right now, a staggering phenomenon of the number of people reading Count of Monte Cristo. I think there's a question also that you read things at a different time of life. I certainly had a heavy dose of the deep classics when I was, 17, and a giant great books kind of college curriculum. And yet I find myself right now reading the David Ferry translation of the Aeneid and thinking, did I never read this? Did I not know what was going on? And what a beautiful translation. And I can think of others who are reading Middlemarch, who are reading Austen, with such passion. So this is a book about following your passion. She's a very surprising and brilliant reader. She lives in San Francisco in the Mission. I really recommend the Common Reader YouTube interview. She's completely surprising. She started to read Canterbury Tales and the famous prologue, found herself drawn to Middle English, and then, of course, had to learn Anglo-Saxon. And as you listen to her, there's just one thing after another that she's dived so deeply into. And I also had a wonderful discussion with Tom Nisley up at Finney Books in Seattle. He started following her and reminded me that she had written a staggeringly smart long essay on the New Yorker story, what it is and how influential it has been. So she's a surprising voice.
I love the idea for this book. I think it's such a great idea. It's funny because I just recently had a friend who's a reader and sent me a note and said, "Hey, so okay, I finished A Count of Monte Cristo. I need more revenge books. What do you recommend?" So maybe it's a series on PBS, A Count of Monte Cristo, which might account for some of it. But I also think revenge fantasies are having a moment right now as well. But what an amazing idea and a great idea! And all the books that you mentioned there are books that absolutely killed me when I had to read them in college. And some of them you go back and it's opened up for you. I often think about reading the Greeks and how it would have been much better. For whatever I retained was very helpful, but would have been a much better later on in my life. Made a lot more sense.
But
So
they will be later. I find it amazing
we'll
too.
read.
I'm
Yes,
so drawn
exactly.
back to reading the Iliad and other Greek translations, and now for a little conversation, all of a sudden I'm plunged into this other book. And of course, Middlemarch again, every time. It's always wonderful. And
Well,
I
there's a
find her
Christopher
really
Nolan
inspirational.
Odyssey coming with Matt Damon. So
Absolutely.
we'll,
Yeah, I've
we'll
seen the
be
trailer.
we'll start selling Odyssey again. Great book. Fantastic idea too. Thank you, Patricia. All right, Will, your last book of the day.
Okay, so somehow there's a connection here to Patricia's book. I'm not sure what it is, but in terms of like big ideas type stuff, my last book of the day is Ignorance: What We Do Not Know, Cannot Know, Must Not Know, and Refuse to Know, by George Szpiro. So this this is a pretty fantastic book. So he's a journalist, so he writes like a journalist. It's very clear in what he has to say, but he has a PhD in mathematical economics. So that's his kind of perspective on this. So there's a lot in here that's kind of philosophy of science type things that, are just beyond us. But there's a lot of other things that are kind of the humanist things that either, we can't know or do not choose to know, whatever it is. So the book is broken up into 4 sections. Those are the 4. What we do not know, cannot know, must not know, refuse to know. Some of the things that he talks about are the very first chapter, do aliens visit us? So that's like under what we do not know. Under what we cannot know, things, he gets into things like the uncharted depths of the ocean. Is there a God, for instance, those kind of things. Must not know, there's things like the study of the Kabbalah is one of those things that are either restricted from us, like only certain people are allowed to study the Kabbalah, I think, traditionally. So there's that, things that we're prohibited from knowing. My favorite section, of course, is the things that we refuse to know, which is, I think, just fascinating. And it gets into kind of...
Is that most of the book?
Yeah. Right. It's the part that stays with me, I think, the most, because it's like, you get into a lot of kind of our current events type stuff with alternative facts and fake news and that kind of thing. And there's a chapter on the flat earthers, which they actually have a logo for their society, which I didn't know, but that's what the logo for the Flat Earther Society looks like. So if you're a proud flat earther, you will have that. But seriously, there's in the things that we refuse to know, there's a section on law and plausible deniability. don't tell me if you did the crime, I don't want to know kind of thing, like, which is totally fascinating to look at that way. My favorite little part of that section of the book, though, is there's a survey that has been done where people were asked to rank like a number of things, like, would you like to know this or not? All these different types of situations. And then after the survey, it was, there's a percentage of how many people said they would or would not want to know this. And some of the things are, um, okay, so let me find some good ones here. 49% of people said they would not want to know if they've accidentally eaten horse meat. So, for instance, 51% of the people said they don't want to know if their colleagues got a bonus. Here's one. 54% of people said they don't want to know if a deceased relative had a potential Nazi past, which is like, ugh. 56% of people said they don't want to know the potential faithlessness of their future spouse. There's one that is really, really high. 72% said they don't want to know the gender or appearance of an applicant for a job that they are going to be giving them. Can anybody guess what the one that 90% of people said they don't want to know?
I have thoughts, but I'm going to let you.
It's not that surprising. 90% of people don't want to know the exact date of their death.
Right.
So, that's something that, is among those things. So it's a completely fascinating stuff. And I would also say, like, for people who are interested in science and scientific kind of philosophy, this is really a great book too. There's a chapter on Alan Turing. There's, chapters on all various kinds of theories of mathematics and astronomy and those kinds of things too. So definitely one for the science people as well as kind of the general interest readers as well.
I have to have this book. It sounds
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating. And yeah, although maybe infuriating as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every day there is a great connection to Patricia's book actually there. But I'm also thinking about how every day I'm seeing, stories and posts from people just saying AI is rotting my brain, no matter what, wherever you are. You're a student, you're a teacher, you're a coder, you're a writer, you're a whatever it is. I saw two coders, AI is rotting their brains, and then also that AI is the new waiting tables for screenwriters. So yeah. So I think these two books together are like a bit of an antidote to that. You gotta, it's tough, but, and like fighting against the waves of, false information or AI or whatever. Anyway, both books are great. So I need to read both of them. Thank you, Will.
Thanks.
Julia, let's
All
wrap
right.
it up for the day.
Okay, well, I love a music book. But also I am presenting one that it comes out just a week too late for me to really present it at the rep night. So I wanted to make sure to bring it here because it comes out June 9th. This book is called Restrung, a memoir of music and transformation by Vijay Gupta. It has a foreword by Pico Iyer, the great writer. And I will say, so this is Vijay Gupta is a member of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra, a violin player with the orchestra. This book, the foreword by Pico Iyer made me cry. And then every time I picked it up, I cried like tears of like beauty and happiness. I don't know if anyone else has that problem, but when things are beautiful, I tend to cry. This book made me cry every single time I picked it up for those amazing reasons. So, I think this book hits on so many things that are sort of like we're seeing, we're feeling, we're experiencing right now. Vijay Gupta, the son of immigrants. And so when he picked up a violin was sort of expected to win at the violin. It was expected to be the best at the violin, and he's a member of the LA Philharmonic, so you have to be pretty good to become one of those members. And then got there and sort of had this moment of like, okay, I've achieved this goal, but where do I find joy in this? And he started turning to playing music. He would go to prisons. Still does. Go to prisons, go to Skid Row. The LA Phil has a great youth orchestra and deals a lot with youth in Southern California, particularly in neighborhoods that maybe have underfunded music programs and stuff like that. And he goes and plays music. And really what this book about is how music connects us. And so, even though the audiences that he plays for in these moments are maybe not like, they're maybe they weren't trained in classical music and don't understand the history of this, whatever Beethoven symphony or whatever he's playing. That the music still connects them. And really what this book is about is how music connects us. It is a gorgeous memoir. It is touching. It gave me hope. It like I said, made me cry. It made me just like, I don't know. It was like this joyful little gem that I got to read in the middle of sort of everything that's happening around us. And so I'm so glad this is coming out. This is part of Da Capo Books, which is our music imprint that sort of took a respite and is back now with full force and putting out just stunning books about music. And this one really is a special, special book. So Restrung by Vijay Gupta. It comes out June 9th. Like I said, the foreword alone is like worth the price of admission, but the whole book is really gonna tug at you, but also just like I'm hoping gives you the same sort of joy that it gave me. So yeah.
Julie, have we talked about this book before? You and I particularly? I feel like
I maybe mentioned it when I was reading it. I like could not shut up about it.
it might be. I may have seen it, but this is another book that I have to have and give my sister, who I talk about a lot when you present books, because she's a musician. She teaches music. She's finishing up her doctoral dissertation, and it's about this very thing, about music as connection. She's focusing on homeless choirs. So, obviously I'm going to give her this book. But I will have to read it first. What a beautiful, beautiful book, and a very impassioned presentation. Thank you, Julia, always. I love the music books that the leads I get from Julia, if I haven't found them already. And then we sometimes when we do find them, like simultaneously. Celebration.
Yeah.
All kinds of amazing books this week, as always. Just makes me so excited. So many great books, so many wonderful avenues to go down. Thank you so much for bringing them all today. I'm so appreciative of your expertise in exposing us all to these wonderful books. Patricia Nelson from Princeton University Press, Will Gawronski from Columbia University Press Consortium, and Julia Callahan from Hachette. Thank you very much to Joey behind the scenes, laboring away with links and covers, and to everybody who is tuning in and watching us today. We will be back next week. We will have more books. We will have more reps. We will have much, much more to talk about. So I hope you will come back again and join us then. In the meantime, you have your orders, you have your books. So happy reading, everybody. We'll see you next week.